Hello there and welcome to Weather HQ. I'm Paolo del Rosario. This week, we're looking into how prepared the country is for natural disasters, how farmers in Region 8 are gaining new opportunities, and how modern irrigation projects aim to boost harvests and manage flooding. Now, to start, I spoke with the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation President, Rene Butchameli, to ask, are we ready for the next disaster?
What happened last week, no? We had 7 days of rain and then a lot of flooding. And last year, we had, if you remember, the 6 storms which are clustered in November.
Yeah.
None of those were really strong typhoons, no? One landed in Ilocos Norte, I think, but the area that was flooded was Bicol. So you can see that the weather is changing, and we kind of have to change with it, no? So I think that's important. The president himself said something that we need to be in a state of permanent disaster response. And I would add a state of permanent disaster preparedness, because that's just the way things are today, and we need to adjust. We're pretty strong in certain things. I think our warnings are much better, but the gaps, drainage needs to be improved. That's a big gap.
Well, you mentioned drainage, and it became a hot topic last week in particular, especially when it comes to people re-examining certain budgets, especially when it comes to flood projects, disaster preparedness, and almost timely enough, mamayang hapon, President Bongbong Marcos will have his SONA. Do you feel that this has to be addressed as well when it comes to disaster preparedness and climate resilience, considering the natural disasters that we have had in the past year or so?
Well, Paolo, I'm pretty sure the president will mention it, will address it. We've had meetings with him over the past year, and he's very aware of the situation. And it's going to be hard to ignore it, because it's first of all, it's raining very hard today. It'll probably be raining hard when it gets to the SONA. So I'm fairly sure he's going to address it. The question is whether he's going to call for a Department of Disaster Reduction, which, if you acknowledge that we're in a state of disaster, permanent disaster response or preparedness, then it may be time to look at a permanent department for disaster resilience.
In your opinion, would that actually make a big difference, having a new department coming in the government to try and specifically address disaster preparedness, or should more focus be given to the actual government agencies already in place to be able to respond in a more timely manner and, of course, be more prepared in the future?
Well, Paolo, we've tried that, no, over the years. And if you notice, when there's a big disaster like Yolanda, or let's say even in Marawi, the tendency is to create ad hoc bodies specifically for that. Well, it's Ondoy, specifically for the storm or for the disaster. And these ad hoc bodies are time limited. So rather than keep creating these ad hoc bodies whenever there's a big disaster, it may make sense to take a closer look at the idea of that department. I know we want to avoid government waste and, sayang yung pera. But maybe in this case, where the situation's changed so much that it may be time to take another look at that idea.
I want to focus as well on yung mga drainages, as you mentioned a while ago, because LGUs in particular, as well as some government bodies, always have this debate, or rather this conversation na umiiba-iba yung mga standards, yung mga requirements ng each LGU, and it's a bit difficult to come up with more of a master plan when it comes to protecting the NCR in particular. When we take a look at more coordinated efforts to fight flood in particular, and of course flood protection and better drainages, what are the scenarios that you feel could actually solve this problem moving forward, especially on the long term when dealing with infrastructure planning?
Well, the problem with flooding, Paolo, is that each LGU can't address it by itself. No, they can try to make the problem better in their area, but the problem actually starts upstream, no? When we start to deforest areas in Dipolo or Marikina, in the Sierra Madres, that water comes storming down into the Pasig River and Laguna de Bay. So it has to be a coordinated approach. That's why we have the MMDA. I think it's better to look at Metro Manila as one entity facing many similar problems. And we know where the issues are, no? Where there are creeks, where there are rivers, These are potential threat areas. Areas close to the ocean are also under threat. So if we can look at those areas and then make sure that the water flows freely, we've got Mangaan Floodway, which was built years ago as part of a Greater Metro Manila flood plan. But I mean, we did the study, and there's about 200,000 informal settlers that have lessened the width of the Mangaan floodway. So the flow of water is not as great as it used to be. And this is a problem we looked at in Ondoy, 2009, 2010. And then we probably need to look at the building the Parañaque spillway underground now. It's another part of the original plan in the 1970s to move water from Laguna Bay into Manila Bay. So it's a couple of moving pieces.
There have been different types of efforts as well, JICA in particular working with the Marikina River system. When we take a look at the technology present or the technology being utilized to better combat flood damages in particular, and of course flooding in certain areas, what excites you when it comes to certain projects already underway to addressing flooding here in Metro Manila?
Well, let me just look at what PDRF is doing. We've got started the world's first ever private sector-run national operations center. We set it up in Clark to operate any potential earthquake in Metro Manila. We have a separate team there. And from there, we had our own ArcGIS system called Handa, which is available to a lot of our member companies and others, wherein they can help track the weather on their laptops and help use it, put their facilities in there on a dashboard and be able to track the potential damage to their facility. So that's one item. I mean, Starlink is important for keeping communications going. So we've got a program with the Australian government to provide emergency comms equipment to different LGUs. In addition, drones. We're looking at all these things. There are certain startups. There's something called Usher, which helps protect buildings from earthquakes. So young people are coming up with all kinds of new ideas, and we're trying to harness that as well.
Well, you mentioned all the efforts that you had. We are also worried in general that when disaster happens, mas reactionary tayo rather than prepared long term. In your opinion, how could we shift from being reactionary when it comes to disasters, not just flooding, even earthquakes in particular, some people are worried about from time to time? How can we shift to be more prepared on a long-term basis as a culture, in your opinion, especially considering what we've experienced in the past year or so?
Well, there's two things, Paolo. One is it's really economics. No? When people have good jobs, a better standard of living, they're going to demand better housing. They're going to build better homes. And that's what happens. You know, their standard of living improves, their homes improve. But you know, if you're living hand to mouth every day, it's pretty hard to worry about whether your shelter is disaster resilient. No, you're too worried about putting food on the table. So it's economics, but it's also, as you mentioned, changing that culture of being always reacting to a situation, but being more prepared. But I see that happening every day. The government's really taking the lead. Office of Civil Defense, DSWD, and a number of Department of Energy. We've got agreements with them. They're taking the lead in shifting to that culture of preparedness.
Coming right up, we talked to the Regional Director of DOT Region 8, Ms. Rina Apostol, about new destinations, sustainable tourism, and fresh opportunities for farmers in Eastern Visayas. Stay with us. Weather HQ will be right back. Hello there, welcome back. I'm Paolo del Rosario. This is Weather HQ. Farm tourism is on the rise in Eastern Visayas, blending agriculture and tourism to empower communities and promote sustainability. To tell us more, here's my conversation with DOT Region 8 Chief, Ms. Rina Apostol.
The Department of Tourism envisions farm tourism in Eastern Visayas as a transformative tool for inclusive growth. The goal is to position the region as the sustainable farm tourism destination in Visayas. The DOT also aims to develop farm tourism circuits that are experiential, educational, and environmentally responsible, contributing both to the tourism economy and of course to the agricultural resilience.
I think one of the key words there po is sustainable agricultural practices. So when we take a look at the word sustainable po, how does the DOT ensure na sustainable nga ang tourism development and of course yung mga practices na ginagawa dito sa farm tourism?
Yeah, of course, kasi sustainability is the main goal of the DOT's farm tourism agenda. So it's a close collaboration with the Department of Agriculture to ensure farms retain their primary function as food producers. And then for the tourism naman na aspect, development of tourism activities that enhance rather than disrupt existing farm systems. Then so sa from our office, from the Department of Tourism, we give capacity building for farm tourism owners on sustainable land use, resource management, biodiversity conservation, and environmental cultural sensitivity assessments that are also incorporated into farm site development planning.
Ma'am, if I'm not mistaken, there are 58 potential agritourism sites in Eastern Visayas. Unang-una po, ano pong criteria po na nagamit po ninyo in identifying these potential sites?
Actually, the 58 potential agritourism sites identified in Eastern Visayas are currently recognized as learning sites siya for agricultures. It's under the Agricultural Training Institute, so of the Department of Agriculture. These farms have already met, of course, the ATI's criteria for being accredited as educational and demonstration farms. So most of the identified potential farm sites, yun naman ang i-accredit ni Department of Tourism.
You mentioned po educational and demonstration farm sites. So ano bang ibig sabihin nun? When you mean educational, is it educational for yung mga farm owners in terms of yung preparation nila for farm tourism, or is it also for yung mga guests po to educate them more on agriculture?
Actually, the DOT assists farm owners by giving them capacity building trainings, like farm tourism orientation, visitor handling, sustainable operations, food safety, Filipino brand of service excellence, yun yung mga binibigay naming trainings. And of course, for the part naman of marketing and promotion, inclusion in DOT's promotional materials and campaigns, opportunities to participate in local and national travel fairs, connection to digital booking platforms and regional tourism circuits. And then also the guidance on their accreditation. So we support the accreditation of our farm tourism sites, which is often a requirement for further support and promotion.
If I'm not mistaken po, there's actually studies being done on farm tourism. If I'm not mistaken, yung may collaboration po kayo with the UPLB and the Visayas State University. When you talk about yung partnership po ninyo with these academic institutions, what have you gained from yung research po nila?
Actually, for now, there's currently no formal research collab between the DOT Regional Office and UPLB or VSU. However, the Visayas State University provided valuable technical assistance during the formulation of the Eastern Visayas Regional Tourism Development Strategic Action Plan. The Eastern Visayas Regional Farm Tourism Development Strategic Action Plan last 2023. So the BSU contributed their expertise in agricultural and sustainable development.
I want to talk about the farm owners po when it comes to farm tourism. Ano yung mga benefits sa mga kuha nila, especially if they work with the DOT, to be able to promote farm tourism? And of course, I can only imagine medyo shift po yan from just focusing on actual agriculture to making it more of a tourist destination, especially sa Eastern Visayas po.
So far kasi ngayon, what we talagang we promote is especially for those na mga taga-cities that they will also know what is farming.
Yes.
So we create a program, mga experiential tours sa mga farm tourism sites in the area.
Can you elaborate more on yung
so that also the student.
Sorry, go ahead po. All right, Ms. Rina, I think just double check yung audio, and I think we're back here. So I actually want to move on and talk about yung concept and development plans po ninyo when it comes to agricultural parks, marine agricultural parks in particular, and of course, yung agri-tourism destinations po ninyo. What ideas do you have for this in terms of yung mga development plans ninyo to make this a more sustainable and of course a very attractive destination and of course offering sa Eastern Visayas?
Yeah, of course, sa Eastern Visayas kasi we identify farms that can be developed for tourism and then
Yeah.
promote good farming practices and sustainability. And then the Department of Tourism offers trainings and technical support to the farm owners. And also, we help them market their farm site destinations.
Yeah. Ma'am, ano yung pinakamalaki challenges po in terms of promoting farm tourism? Because at the moment, syempre, you have to make the idea of farm tourism actually attractive and of course, develop that even more. What are the biggest hurdles in terms of developing farm tourism?
Sorry.
Ano pa yung biggest challenges po in terms of developing farm tourism sa region?
Actually, the development of our farm tourism here in the region is we develop a tourism circuit that the farm tourism sites are included with their experiential tours, and then also developing another tour program for our cruise visitors because Eastern Visayas is also included na sa mga cruise visit. So kasi ang cruise visit na pumupunta dito sa Eastern Visayas is more on expedition cruises. So we include also our farm tourism sites na mapuntahan ng mga guests natin from the cruise. So inside the farm is malalaman nila kung ano yung mga experiential tour na mangyayari within the site.
When we return, we look into new irrigation projects that aim to increase farm productivity and help control floods. Weather HQ will be right back. Hello there, you're still watching Weather HQ. I'm Paolo del Rosario. The National Irrigation Administration is leading the way in modernizing irrigation to support farmers, raise rice production, and minimize flood risks. To break it all down, here's my interview with NIA Administrator, Engineer Eduardo Guillen.
Alam naman na po natin lahat, of course, ang mandate ng NIA ay sa irrigation. Mag-construct tayo ng additional irrigation pa po para para sa ating food security. Pero meron pong mga ginagawa ng NIA ngayon na talaga palagay namin ay may malaki ang impact dahil nitong first quarter pa lang nakita na natin ang effect. Tumaas talaga yung ating production. Ito po yung pagbabago natin ng ating cropping calendar. Dati from December yung isa, June and July yung isa. Kaya lang sabi ko, yung June nating cropping calendar, yung wet season, natataon sa bagyuhan. So, iminove natin. So, ngayon, October na po tayo, ang first dry cropping namin. Ani tayo ng January, February, and then March, tanim ulit tayo. Ani ulit tayo ng June, July. So, na-increase po natin yung ating yield at ang ating cropping intensity. So, yan po ang dahilan ngayon kung bakit biglang tumaas yung ating production sa pagkain.
Sir, naging iba po ba yung cropping calendar po natin that's climate change? Dahil medyo dumadami na talaga ang mga extreme weather events na nakita natin dito sa Pilipinas.
Tama po yan. Ito po yung smart climate agriculture ang tinatawag natin. So, ang ginawa namin, tinignan lamang po namin kung saan pa natin dapat ipapasok yung ating cropping calendar. So, ang maganda po kasi pagka nag-double dry ka during the dry season, tataas talaga yung yield dahil maaraw, At ilalayo mo sa bagyo ang ating mga farmers. Kaya lesser po ng risk. So ito po yung ating climate change adaptation po ito.
Nagpakita kami ng materials po dito galing po sa inyo na may solar-powered irrigation systems na po kayo. How new are yung solar-powered irrigation systems po ninyo, and of course, how effective is it in terms of yung benefits para sa ating mga magsasaka?
Napakaganda po nito, no? Alam niyo po kasi lahat ng ating irrigation system sa buong bansa, may problema po kami doon sa dulo ng ating irrigation facilities dahil na lalahatin ko na, ano po, lahat ng ilog sa buong bansa ay silted. So kinukulang na yung tubig na pumapasok sa ating mga irigasyon. Kaya nagtatayo po kami ng mga solar pump irrigation projects doon po sa ating, inilalagay namin yung solar panel kung nakikita nyo doon sa taas ng kanal para walang nasasayang na lupa. Ano po? At pinapump natin yung tubig dito sa ating kanal para ma-irrigate natin yung sa dulo. May maganda po ito dahil nandiyan na yung irrigation facilities natin. Matipid po ito. Ano? Ang pagkaganyang sistema, ang nagagastos lamang po natin dyan, around 350,000 pesos per hectare lamang. Compared sa yung regular po na mag-repair tayo, may mga nasira rin kasing irigasyon pag ni-repair mo yan. Mga 700,000 ang cost niyan per hectare. At yung new irrigation po ay nagkukost yan ng between 1.2 to 1.5 million. Ang maganda pa po dito sa solar pump irrigation natin, sandali lang namin itong ginagawa mga 4 to 6 months compared sa mga new irrigation natin, mga 3 to 5 years yan. Kaya ramdam agad yung effect. Mura na, mabilis pang gawin, at of course, ito'y yung ating mga system, sinasabi ko nga ngayon, gagawin pa ng mga farmers dapat pag binigyan ng Philmex sila ng rice processing system, pwede rin nilang gamitin yung extra production sa kuryente para doon sa pagpapatakbo ng kanilang kiskisan.
Sir, anong percent na po yung sa irrigation system po natin na naka-solar na po, and may timeline po ba kayo para i-expand yung proyekto na to?
Ano po kasi ito, yung iba po kasi natin na nilalagyan ngayon ng solar pump irrigation, po, yung mga sa upland communities. Ito po yung mga hindi na isama ng National Irrigation Master Plan ng NIA noong ginawa. Kaya nagulat po ako nung pinagawan ko po ng Regional Irrigation Master Plan. Na-find out namin na meron palang around 1 million hectares na hindi nakasama doon sa master plan ng NIA. Ito po yung mga nasa upland communities, ano po?
Opo.
Dahil yung master plan ng NIA, based lamang sa 3% slope, ibig sabihin, doon lang sa mga kapatagan yan sabi ko, paano naman yung mga farmers natin na nasa upland? So, yan po yung isang kagandahan din ng solar pump natin ngayon, yung mga individual na pumps, ano po? Yung mga ang range ay nasa 10 to 15 hectares, individual pumps. Para po sa mga upland communities natin ito, sa talagang mahihirap na mga farmers, ano?
Yeah.
At ito, sila pa yung nagpo-produce ng mga high-value crops natin. So, malaki rin yung impact na to. Bibigyan ko kayo ng halimbawa, no? Yung isang project natin, halimbawa sa Occidental Mindoro, yung mga nagtatanim ng sibuyas doon. Abay, yung isang ani lang nila sa isang ektarya, aabot ng 500,000 ang income ng isang farmer doon. Kung mabili mo ng mga around 35 pesos per kilo, yung sibuyas, isipin mo, 35 pesos mo lang bilhin. Kikita na yung farmer natin ng halos kalahating milyon. Paano pa kung binili ng 50 pesos yan, 100 pesos? Ang laki po ng impact talaga sa ating mga farmers. Ito mga solar pump irrigation.
Engineer, pag-usapan na natin yung impact ng irrigation system sa bigger part ng population, in the sense na naging hot topic yung flood control as of late. At yung irrigation systems po natin, if I'm not mistaken, are actually a factor in terms of yung flood control in certain areas po. Paano nakakatulong ang ating irrigation systems when it comes to flood water control?
Napakalaking tulong po na to. Yung ating mga dams, sila po ang maganda po kasi sa mga high dams, yung impounding dam na tinatawag natin, makokontrol mo yung tubig Halimbawa, alam mo na may paparating na bagyo at puno yung dam, mag-release ka lang ng tubig, Halimbawa, dito po sa ating Magat River, Magat Dam, at Pantabangan Dam natin. So, dahil may system po kasi ang NIA ngayon, yung ating Nexus system, yung binigay ng mga Japanese, na nape-predict namin yung babagsak na tubig sa ating reservoir area, So, 2 weeks prior, alam na namin kung aapaw yung dam o hindi. So, pwede na kami mag-release ng tubig, Tapos pagdating ho ng bagyo, hindi ho na ho kami nagre-release. Isipin niyo po, yung regular flow ng tubig, halimbawa, nasa 150 cubic meter per second. Alam niyo po ba, pagka may bagyo, ang dumarating na tubig sa ating dam ay umaabot pa ng 8,000 cubic meter per second. Talagang, kung wala yung mga dam natin dyan sa Pantabangan, kahit dito sa may Magat area, talagang matindi po ang baha sa baba. So ang dams po natin, ibig sabihin multipurpose, pwede po siyang flood control, irrigation, hydropower production, yung power production natin, bulk water, yung dam natin sa Halaor, magagamit mo yan for bulk water. At aquaculture, tourism, So dapat talaga ang investment ng gobyerno natin itong mga high dams para multipurpose siya, hindi lamang sa food security, kundi para rin po sa napakaraming bagay, power. Yung alam niyo yung Halaor Dam natin, sir, ang maibibigay namin na para sa bulk water diyan, 10 million liters daily. Ibig sabihin, kaya namin, pwede hong gamitin nyo ng 50,000 po na katao dyan sa Iloilo para sa kanilang inuming tubig.
And that's a wrap for this week's episode of Weather HQ. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Paolo del Rosario. See you next week right here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.